Just an absolutely stunning day. Something of a preamble to what the report card was really about. I'm at one of the sites that I've spent time over the summer using both the Manticore and the Legend. A little bit choppy this morning. Clarity's not great, but we'll make the best of the situation. But also to give a little context to the reason why I did it, a little explanation as to what you're going to find on the report card. But really, please take a moment to review it in the description. I've written it out for people to read. The reason why I did it was plainly obvious. These machines get a lot of great reviewers talking about their abilities on land. Very few people actually come out and do, the work in the water, trying to recover stuff, dealing with all that nature throws at you. So, from a water hunter's perspective, that's the reason why. But also because I had I guess I was more inclined to want to really to see for myself and jot down these things, just from the point of view of tracking their results, for my own reasons. And part of that is because at the moment I've had the benefit of using the LG35 on the Legend, which is a great coil, and so the report card should really be taken into that sort of understanding that the Manticore didn't have that benefit, at least not here as a Canadian. I do not have the M515 available to me. I had tried, but it just is none of the dealers are able to give me any idea of when will be available too. So because of this, I would say, I'd like to come back and be able to do a report card next summer, equipping the Manticore with that M15 coil, and then seeing if it kind of overcomes some of those issues that I encountered with it. The one thing also that's worth pointing out is I experienced a really unusual and erratic behavior out of the Manticore about 20 days into using it, and I wasn't sure if there was a malfunction going on. As an Equinox owner, I was really concerned that water had gotten in, because it was handling the targets in a really muffled and choppy manner out of nowhere. Anybody that's used that Manticore will tell you it's just got so much going for it in terms of response, locking in on targets. It wasn't doing any of that anymore, and so I called the dealer and he told me to call Minelab support, which I did, and then we went through a series of questions. That individual decided, hey, it's best that you talk to the TSC, the service center in Pennsylvania, which sucked right out of the gate because that meant that I needed to ship it to the US rather than having the issue handled here. But the TSC person I spoke to there is Mike, and we went over some of the stuff, and my concern right out of the gate was, hey, it took me a long time to get this machine. I waited months on 3 different waiting lists. Am I going to get a replacement unit back in time to make use of it this season? And I had some assurances, but I was still bothered by that possibility. So I went back home, dried out the unit, unplugged, took out the skid plate, and gave it a good thorough cleaning, coil and plate. Unplugged the coil, did a factory reset, which kind of sucked because I'd done a little bit of programming, but not a big deal, to put everything back in place. I just had to hunker down and reprogram it, and it started working again. So if anybody encounters that kind of thing with their Manticore, I'd highly recommend that you do those things rather than sending it in. So that's one of the other reasons why I did this, hoping that, as people are still kind of getting used to the Manticore, and maybe possibly having something like that happen to them, it may be something that just gets resolved with a good factory reset or unplugging of the coil. The the report card also talks about the factor of drag, which in the water is very different from your swinging ability on land. The drag is the resistance against the shaft, coil, and head when you're trying to sweep in the water. And in days like today, for instance, there's more going on than just... Sorry, I just got a target here. There's more going on than just the water factor and the waves. Sure, above water level, they could throw you around. You got to be careful out here. Get some good footing. Oh, look at that. Got a ring. Looks like it's titanium or stainless steel, but well, maybe I should check this before I make that determination. It's got some decent weight to it. I'm out here with the Legend. The other factor going on here today, which you do not see, is the undertow. The undertow is really strong, especially when you start getting into deeper, and when you're starting to rise or descend into a hole. It gets very tricky. You have to be extremely careful, because it's not only a matter of now being able to sweep and pace your walking according to those conditions, but you have to stay upright, because if you're not careful, you might get kind of like a big wave just hitting you and knocking you off your feet. So drag, and if you see it in the report, it's really meant to say, look, this is a factor we consider when we're out here, because we have to think about how that is going to, how we're going to pace ourselves to the fatigue that could come with having more resistance against a particular machine's coil or design. And I can say rather, confidently that I've worked in way worse and way more wavy conditions, way more wavy and windy, I should add, with a lot more factors going on. And both machines did very well. Of course, when you have a bigger coil, there are things you have to compensate for, and that is that it is just bigger. It's a little more nose heavy. Anybody that's used the Nox and gone to the 15-inch coil will understand this. Some people are fine with it on land. Some people, it just starts to wear on their shoulder a bit. I personally don't have an issue and have not experienced any kind of fatigue using the Nokta, the even with the LG35. And I'll just kind of pop it out of the water to show. I mean, one of the things that I also remark on and might not be as clearly or plainly obvious is look how thick these ears are, right? And that nut is just, I mean, I know I'm making probably a bigger deal than I need to, but that little design feature is huge, right? Because I could easily just, as I'm out here, and these things collect a lot of sand in the threading, so to be able to just grip that and remove it to swap coils if I decide now I'm just going to go with the factory today or the bigger coil because I want better coverage, that's huge. So in a sort of parting thought is I am concerned when I compare the thickness of the ears on this to the design of the Manticore, because a few times when it was like this out here, I was a little concerned that the undertow was hard to contend with, and if I get a bigger coil, I just hope that I don't blow the connector off or the coil connector off or anything like that. I'm optimistic that it won't, but this might be a use case that that is worth maybe exploring once I have the M15 coil and I can try it out here. So thank you for watching. Please take a moment to review the report card, and please note that this was done impartially and in a manner where anybody that's considering a multi-frequency for water hunting can really kind of get a maybe different perspective on what works for them. All right.